Atomicrops is an indie roguelite that is a hybrid of being a Stardew Valley-esque farming simulator mixed in with twin stick shooting. Here's the beginning of the game. I'm picking my character. You start with Lavender, who has a 20% crop increase, and I liked Rye through my playthroughs. I unlocked him. His guns have a chance not to break. Your gun can break in between rounds. You pick which year, though. You start on year 1. After you beat that through your run, you get year 2, and so on and so forth up to year 10. There's a daily run. This is the kind of the menu screen before you jump in. It shows your permanent upgrades, everything else. But when you do jump in, you start with spring. Each day has 3 days. You see in the top right there, that circle, that's covering my first day. But you get started with a handful of seeds, usually like beans, potatoes, and then you can plant your crops right away from that first day. This is the planting farming phase of Atomic Crops. And then you see there is like light defense, but you don't have to deal with like slugs which eat your crops coming in until you get to the night phases. It's separated with biomes though. When you explore the different areas, like there's a snowman showing the winter biome, and the desert one is open on the left here. And they stuck with the area too. They didn't just do seasons. Like I have the desert actual area, so more of the extremities of each one. But here my complaint of the enemies being a bit generic. I have a cactus shooting and a like magician-looking rabbit that you're seeing there. But you're clearing out the ones that are stationed in each area. This is how you pick up your items. Like I have the pilling, the pickaxe where I can prepare the ground for seeds, and some other ones just seeds, upgrades, scrolls, where you always have like 2 of them. I can pick one or the other. It does things like expand the soil, or it might water your crops, give it fertilizer, so it has a higher yield. It gives you more money overall. But the enemies I wasn't very impressed with. There's like the cow flying insect thing, because it's kind of ones you would see, but that mixed in with the graphics that you have here. It's like ones I feel like I've seen before on like a Super NES game several decades ago. Each area though, you can expand to the next one. There was a bridge spot where I need 2 of the bridge thing to get to the next one. These you're going to use more though for the higher years. If you're really planning out a big expedition and letting your farm hold out before you go back to defend your farm at nighttime. But you want to get as much as you can, taking out as much of these enemies, getting as many seeds, as many upgrades, and it has like the upgrade types too, like with roguelites where the stats increase of your character, where you might plant faster, you might have like a drone fly around you that helps you. And each one has this like mini boss. You saw that little leaf thing that directs me to where the mini boss is. Then I can take this guy out and get some more plants. But here I have that dilemma of, do I go back right away to defend my farm, or do I take out this boss quick and get these plants? And like early on, since it is easier, I'm not as worried about slugs, I decided to go with it that way. In the top right corner, you see the water. That means my plants need water, and you'll sometimes see a swipe or a chomp. You saw it, there it is, a little bit ago. This means they're being attacked by like a slug or something else. This is also why I like the character Rye, because he starts with a turret, and that turret like took out one of them right away there. And then there is one of the slugs. If I leave him be, then he will eat my plants. The first 2 days, though, of each season, I'm in spring. There isn't a boss, and you can always tell where you're at with that circle in the top if you forget which day that you're in. So you know you're not going to get that boss. But with the invasive species update, you can get that blood moon. So there is a chance that special enemies will come. But they'll let you know this. You'll have this big, weird-looking moon, no matter where you're at, kind of telling you. And in this instance, you do want to get back right away. But after some time, after your plants have enough water, and then you hopefully put in a chunk of fertilizer so they're worth more, you can then harvest them. That's that blue bubble you're seeing that I have going around me. But there's that balance of, okay, I got to till the ground, I got to plant each crop, I got to have enough water. You see in the bottom left there, I got to go back to the well, make sure I have enough water. Oh yeah, fertilizer, I got to dump that on. And then while you're doing that, you're also engaged into combat. At the end of each day phase, though, you're forced into town, so you're really scrambling those last handful of seconds to get as much as you can in. Here's my yield. Not very great in the beginning. I didn't have a really good first round. I lost 1 heart. You see in the top left there, my beet heart things. After, though, hopefully got a big yield, you can go back and buy things in town. I didn't get much, so I'm just jumping right back in. A little bit farther in now, this is day 3. You can tell in the top right there, that circle on that 3rd day. When it gets to be night, you get forced back in by the boss. He tunnels around and then sucks you in, and then you're back to your main screen to defend your plants. The bosses are great. I liked mechanic-wise how they are, and then graphically too. Like a lot of attention has been put into them. And there is enough like diversity, I think, especially with the update. If you played before the update, it definitely needed a lot more bosses, because I battled like each one several times, and there's 4 new ones. So if you had played before, this would have been quite a bit more monotonous. Different strategies, though, that they have. Like with the slug one, he comes back and forth, but he kind of escapes after a while. And if you follow him, then the other kind of enemies have to get him. So you got to balance out what to do. But here's where I like Rye, since I kept that flamethrower weapon from the previous day. It's not much of a big deal. And I can still tell enemies are on the screen, though, in that top there, that chomping, that swiping. There's a few left. But there's a bonus if you defeat the boss kind of earlier-ish. Some you don't even have to defeat, like that slug. Then you have some extra time to do some extra planting, or defeat like more of the enemies, get more of that fertilizer. The enemies always drop fertilizer, so you can get a higher yield from each of the plants. This gives a lot more diversity than you think. Besides being hectic during these phases, you're not always going to have a ton of seeds like I do here. So instead, I'm dealing with getting fertilizer, and then I'm not seeing slugs. I'm just risking it. I'm going off and trying to get some more stuff exploring. And this is something you're going to be doing. This is the finer details thing. When you're getting to the higher years, I'm still in kind of the easier ones. This is just year 2, where you're going to be going off and taking more of the risks, because you want those extra seeds, or you've harvested most of the plants and there's nothing for the enemies to get. So you're better off just getting as much as you can before you go back. But no matter the time of day, you're always forced back into town, and even if you're out exploring, picking up things, it's going to be bringing you back. Like here's a more like usually a yield I will get. Like once you start to get things moving. There I lucked out. I kept my flamethrower once again. After each season, then you talk to the mayor, and you get an increased bonus. The more that you've gotten, you see the chest there. I didn't get any this time. I would get more upgrades, more stat bonuses if I had gotten more. So it's especially important at the end of your season. Try to kind of make it like farming, to get as much as you can, because then that's when you're going to get your yield. You can buy more of the items, and you have extra things too. Like you have a tractor, the scroll you see with the pigeon on the right there, but the tractor helps me. You can grind up enemies, you can water my plants, pick up weeds, do various things like that. Like I mentioned in my review, I do recommend the game because it succeeds as a classic roguelite. It doesn't take long to play through a run, it doesn't take long to get into, it doesn't take long to understand, but those finer details, the higher you increase the difficulty from year 1, year 2, all the way up to year 10, it forces you from a game design standpoint to pay attention to the small details, like the type of crops, type of seeds that you get, the upgrades, what are the right upgrades to get, even like starting with your character if you want to have a certain type of play style or something that you're better at. It all focuses on that. The weakest part, though, is individually, the separate elements. But first, let's talk about the night sequences when you're back at your base, you're defending your farm, while you're also engaged in combat. This is where you are forced to do both right at the same time. An example of where it is quite a bit better. The shooting itself, you just have a gun, you don't have an additional like secondary weapon. Like the tractor, if you have the right one, you can use that as a weapon, but that has a long cooldown, so it's just about shooting in a direction. But when you're at your farm, you have to also deal with harvesting, and then when you do that, you got to till the ground again. You got to plant the seeds. You got to water. You got to remember. Oh, I forgot to do fertilizer. Oh, I got to collect fertilizer from the enemies that are around that I'm shooting at all the time. You're thinking about all of these things, and you can do it at the same time. This is why the controller functions a lot better than mouse and keyboard, because I can do that. I can hold my stick in one direction, and then I can also hold it like another button, and then it will harvest at the same time. The actual planting itself, you can't specify the plot where you are. You have to physically be in the right spot to be able to till the ground, to plant the seed, to do it. So this is the one negative that you have with this sequence, because like during the day, it's no big deal. You're not really much in combat. There's like a couple enemies kind of floating around here and there, but at night it's more of a pain. You're not really, eventually I would always give up on thinking about where's the right spot to maximize. I want like 4 crops in the same spot to get that bonus, or even like fertilizer, remembering to do that. That can be more of a pain too. But this is the one sequence where, since you're forced to do each of these genres are mixed together, then you don't notice like the separate things. The shopping aspect, it's not too bad either. With this one though, it's not deep at all. You want to always be buying what you can, and there's some things are more important than other things. One thing you're thinking about is your weapon, and this is why I like Rye, because half the time he gets that weapon. That's one you're thinking about. You're always picking up seeds though, you saw on the side there, and sometimes the pickaxe, sometimes the shovel. You can't really go wrong with just buying most of the stuff up. It's just a matter of what you prioritize to buy, because like my first few runs, I would often die, not out of skill so much, but more so because I couldn't plant, I didn't pick up the seeds, and then I couldn't get more money later, I couldn't buy more seeds, I couldn't buy the weapon, and then that loop kept repeating. After a few rounds, I'd run out of money, and then the bosses kept getting harder. As I got like to the later seasons, it gets almost impossible to get farther into the game. Let's talk about the exploration combat. Each area has its mini boss. You're seeing the one here after you release like this firefly type of thing. It flies in one corner of the map, and then you can fight that boss, and then you get a stat upgrade that comes out of this flower. This is possibly the weakest. I think this is the weakest part of Atomicrops, is the just straight up exploration, straight up combat. It's fun exploring because you don't know what you're going to get. It is like randomized, the items. It's not like there's procedural generation in that aspect, but it's a matter of I aim in a direction and then I shoot, and then later rounds I can like unlock additional areas, because I have to keep walking out farther and farther, waste more time to get more of those items. So you want to eventually be unlocking the other seasons to get those items that are closer by, so you don't have to backtrack so far. It does make it easier. Like there are some tunnels to get back to your main area. You have these bushes though, like the ones that I'm collecting here that you get for money. But the good part about this is thinking about what you're going to do and what you get. But when you're actually in combat, the less you think about it, the better. And this does eventually happen. I'm thinking more about the items, getting as much as I can. And there is like a difficulty, kind of a bullet hell aspect where I'm jiving around. But you notice it's not that fast pace. I'm kind of sauntering, avoiding the slow bullets. Like you see the volcano, he's shooting out the rock, and it shows like the area effect where it is going to attack. And it extends to the defend the crops when the sun does go down, of thinking about, okay, how long am I going to stick here? Oh, here's a tunnel. All right, I'll explore around here and then get something. It's a matter of minutes, though, each day that passes. So when you're exploring, you really don't have enough time to get bored of it, because you're thinking about how many seeds do you have? Like, oh, okay, I'm hanging around too long. I should really plant, because there's only so many seconds in a day that I can plant, and then I also got to be thinking about how much time it takes to water. Oh, do I have a cow that can water the plants? Do I have a pig that digs into the ground? That makes it easier for me. This is the roguelite aspect that works really well, that you're trying to remember and just review the stats and the upgrades that you have, because some of this makes it easier. Like if I had a cow, the cow waters the plants. I don't have to be sitting at my farm as long. And same thing with the like the chicken takes care of the weeds, some of the weeds, the pig, and the more you have, you don't just have one, you don't just have two. The pig digs into the ground. The bee makes your plants grow quite a bit faster, and like if you have items where you have more tillable ground but you don't have a lot of seeds, you're going to spend more time exploring, trying to get those seeds and then be going back. But it's so in a way it's kind of distracting you, but it's in a gameplay, laser focused on the gameplay. You're not distracted like aesthetically, or you're not distracted because it takes so long to go from one phase to the other that you're just kind of looking around seeing what's going on. You're constantly on the clock and then thinking about what's the next move to do, how long should I sit here, oh, where did I go when I explored? I should go back and check that out again. But I'll go the right way instead of the left way, or I'll go straight down the middle. Oh, there's a tunnel here, then I can explore there. Like there's all these things always going on all the time. If you're into the classic roguelite type of a game and you like the mechanics that are related, having farming, a fixed area where you are planting, and then the crops are ultimately just for your character to increase your stats because you get money, so you can get more weapons or you can buy items, you can increase your relationships that give you different bonuses, and eventually at the end of a season you can talk to the mayor and then you get additional bonuses that help your character, which is what like a roguelite is about, building up the character. Then I would, it's very straightforward. This is an easy buy. You're going to have a lot of fun here because each run, it's going to be different. You don't know what bosses you're going to play against. You'll see a lot of the same ones, but you don't know when, and when you explore, you're exploring like the same biomes, but you don't know what seeds you're going to get. So it forces you to be engaged from a gameplay standpoint across all aspects all the time. If you really don't care about the roguelite genre that it occupies, you're just interested in the farming aspect mixed in with a more action-centric type of game, then you're going to be disappointed because the farm only matters as much as it does upgrading your character. There aren't extra things aesthetically going on. You can technically have them eat a bunch of your crops and it doesn't matter. It's just the amount of how much money it impacts you and how much you lose. But if you have enough money to keep rolling, keep going, there is a limit there. There isn't the things like with the seasons where you're going to see this winter, like it's going to snow, or you're going to have like rain during the summer, and you have the crops associated with each of those seasons that like you have to protect, and there is real of a buildup. You're constantly planting, constantly picking up. The only thing that lasts over time is the trees, and that's only so far as to get the money from them, the fruit, and most of your plants are still going to be just like the usual fruits and vegetables type of stuff. But if you like this video, please give a like. If you'd like to consider subscribing, and I will. See you next time.